in Asheville, North Carolina to spend 2 full days on the Biltmore Estate. It is the location of the largest home in the United States. With 250 rooms, this is one of the closest things this country has to a legit castle. But more than that, there's also 8,000 acres of gardens, farms, shops, restaurants, and hotels. We're going to show you the highlights of our time at Biltmore and share what we thought of the experience with you. Our visit began with a tour of a museum exhibition that we booked along with our stay. The exhibit, called Tutankhamun, His Tomb and His Treasures, opened at Biltmore in March 2025 and will continue there until January 4th, 2026. Guests tour this exhibit at their own pace. It took us about 2 hours to make it through all of the displays. Guests are given a listening device that provides them with narration as they tour through this exhibit. There's a lot of additional information to read about what you see, as well as a few informational videos to watch. Included is a display about the ties that the residents of the estate, the Vanderbilts, had with Egypt and the study of its past. That pretty much amounts to several family members visited Egypt, and one relative by marriage was very interested in the study of ancient Egypt. Her journals on the subject are in the collection of the Biltmore Estate's historic artifacts. But it is worth noting that this Tutankhamun exhibit has no actual artifacts in it at all. Some of the actual contents of King Tut's tomb used to be included in exhibitions around the world in the past, but now they are all permanently located in the recently built Grand Egyptian Museum in Giza. This exhibit at the Biltmore consists entirely of replicas of those actual artifacts. But we were still fascinated by seeing these meticulously created replicas, which communicated the size and scale and grandeur of what was found in Tutankhamun's tomb. King Tut began his reign when he was only 9 years old. He died around 9 years later. He was not considered a particularly significant ruler, but unlike most other pharaohs whose graves were robbed because of the riches located inside, King Tut's tomb was found fully intact by archaeologists in 1922. Inside were weapons, jewelry, furniture, a golden mask, a sarcophagus, and much more. And you can see detailed recreations of the tomb's contents up close in this exhibit. The findings in King Tut's tomb began a widespread fascination with ancient Egypt and its pharaohs. Like all great attractions, the exhibit ends in a gift shop. If you want to see this exhibit like we did, it is an extra $35 add-on to the $80 adult ticket to tour the Biltmore House and Grounds. We thought it was worth it.
We then drove to one of the several parking lots for Biltmore House tours. There's a shuttle bus from the parking lot if you're unable or uninterested in taking the 10-minute walk from parking to the house. Guests usually do quite a lot of walking when they visit Biltmore, so you may want to save yourself the extra steps. We were dropped off at the front of the mansion with a little time to kill before our scheduled tour. Since we hadn't eaten yet, we had a late lunch at the Courtyard Market, one of several eateries in the area that used to be horse stables adjacent to the house. I got a pulled pork sandwich with chips and coleslaw for $14.95. Alice ordered the seasonal berry and spinach salad for $16.95. Our food was pretty good. We also bought bottles of water. Once all that was consumed, it was time to tour the Biltmore house. One of the first rooms you come to is the winter garden, with a glass roof providing lots of natural light on sunny days. We're just going to be showing you some highlights of the tour to give you an idea what the house is like. Here's the billiard room where the Vanderbilts entertain guests with billiards, dominoes, and refreshments. This was George Vanderbilt's vacation home, and it was completed in 1895, at which time George opened the home to friends and family on Christmas Eve, 1895. Family did not yet include his wife Edith, who he would later marry in 1898. The most impressive room in the house has to be the banquet hall, with 7-story high ceilings and seating for 38 people. When it was just the Vanderbilt family enjoying dinner, though, they ate at a smaller table that would be placed at the end of the room near the triple fireplaces. One end of the room features the organ loft. This 1916 pipe organ plays music every 15 minutes or so. The next room was the breakfast room, where both breakfast and lunch was served to the family. George Vanderbilt, like his father before him, was an art collector, and you can see 2 paintings by French Impressionist painter Renoir hanging on the wall here. There's a listening device you can borrow that provides an audio tour in each room in the house. It gives you a lot of interesting background information about the house and the Vanderbilt family. This room here was originally intended to be a formal sitting area, but it was never really completed during George Vanderbilt's lifetime. George's descendants finished the room long after his passing, using furniture that was in the Biltmore collection. There's a porch area nearby that guests can walk out on to take in the gorgeous views of the Blue Ridge Mountains. This is the library, which only contains about half of George Vanderbilt's book collection. Be sure to look up while you're in this room. Here we see Mr. Vanderbilt's room. Followed by an oak sitting room extending between Mr. Vanderbilt's room and Mrs. Vanderbilt's room. It was common for wealthy couples of their era to have separate rooms.
The house also has an indoor pool, a fitness room, and a 2-lane bowling alley. We are not sharing all of the tour with you because there are so many rooms with so much detail that you really need to see it yourself if you love historic homes like this. In the basement is the Halloween room. It's called this because it was thought that the witches and black cats were painted on the walls for a Halloween party. It was later learned that the eerie decorations were put up by the Vanderbilt's daughter Cornelia and her husband for a New Year's Eve party when they were owners of the house in 1925. The room is now a museum space for an exhibit about those who had a hand in building the house. The tour continues through the servants' quarters and in the rooms where their daily work was done. It is less glamorous than the Vanderbilt's living space, but still very interesting. The tour does not include all 250 rooms. It felt like we got to see about 30 or 40 rooms, but for an extra cost, there are a couple of guided tours that take you behind the ropes to areas that most guests can't visit. There's an elevator that moves between the first and second floors for guests with mobility issues, but there are some rooms to see on the third floor and in the basement that you can only access by going up and down stairways. We exited the tour near the old stables area where we ate lunch. We got to see this area's indoor eatery, the Stable Cafe, serving burgers, barbecue, and southern recipes every day for lunch only. It was closed by the time we walked by. There were also several shops like the confectionery with a number of sugary sweet snack options. The bookbinder's shop had books and games related to the time of the Vanderbilts available for sale. The Carriage House shop is the main gift shop at the Biltmore House, with Biltmore souvenirs such as clothes, magnets, and Christmas ornaments, as well as a lot of home decor. We also visited a Christmas Past, which featured a lot of Christmas decor, including Biltmore branded holiday merchandise. This reminded us how much we want to go see Biltmore at Christmas someday. Jack's family went a few years ago and loved it, but we were unable to go with them at the time. Finally, we stopped in the toy maker's shop where we saw some games and toys from times past, as well as some kid-friendly Biltmore merch for sale. From there, we got back on the shuttle and then took our car across the grounds to the Antler Hill Village section of the estate where our on-site hotel is located, called the Village Hotel. We checked in there, but we are going to do a separate video with a tour and review of the hotel that we stayed in for 2 nights. After checking in and resting a bit, we headed off to the more expensive and more luxurious hotel on property, the Inn on Biltmore Estate, to grab some dinner. Since we weren't staying at the inn, we only saw some of the public spaces, but everything we saw looked first class. This looks like a great place to stay, but a room at the inn was over $200 more expensive while we visited than the hotel. But the lobby area looked wonderful, as did the lounge where we ate. Even the public bathrooms looked very nice.
We ate at the Library Lounge at the inn. You can visit this lounge if you have a ticket for the day to Biltmore or an annual pass, or if you're staying at either on-site hotel. Here's the cocktail menu. They have a full bar, so we stuck with what we already know we like. An amaretto sour for me and a margarita for Alice. Here's the appetizer menu. We ordered the she crab dip, which came with crackers, flatbread points, and crudité to dip for $24. We both thought the crab dip was delicious. Here are the entrees. I ordered the lounge smash burger with fries for $24. If you've been watching our channel long, you already know how I feel about paying $24 for a burger and fries. It did taste really good though. Not sure it was $24 good. Alice got the prime short rib frites with braised short ribs and truffle fries for $45. Alice loved this meal. The drinks and food here were expensive, but we actually chose this over the inn's other restaurant, the dining room, because this lounge was the less expensive option. We can't afford to splurge like this on a regular basis, but we did want to check out this hotel and at least one of its dining options since we weren't staying there. Alice did end up saying this was the best meal she had during our 2 days at Biltmore, so I guess it was worth it. Happy spouse, happy house, and all that. It was dark outside when we left and returned to our own hotel and slept well. We woke up the next morning and ate breakfast at our hotel. We'll show you that when we do a hotel review of the Village Hotel in a few days. Then we returned to the Biltmore house, because while we did complete the full house tour the day before, we had yet to visit the estate's 75-acre gardens, which were designed by Frederick Law Olmsted, a landscape architect, who was one of the 2 guys who designed Central Park in New York City. During our visit in early spring, flowers were just starting to bloom in many of the gardens, but the most impressive garden we saw was the walled garden, which featured thousands of tulips in full bloom. Their rose garden was not in bloom yet, though I am told that's a big highlight of the late spring and summer. We then visited the conservatory, which the Biltmore website calls a year-round tropical oasis. It did feel a bit tropical under the glass roof of this building. The exotic plants from around the world seemed to feel right at home in there in the warm temperatures. There's a palm house, an orchid room, a cactus room, and a lot more to explore here. When we popped out of the conservatory, we headed to the Gardener's Place shop. Here you can purchase plants to give your yard the Biltmore treatment, as well as garden accessories, home decor, gardening books, and more.
After our garden adventure, we headed to Antler Village. This is the area where both Biltmore hotels are located, but there are also a number of shops, restaurants, and experiences here that we enjoyed checking out. Here is the Outdoor Adventure Center. This is where you can book a fly fishing excursion or the Land Rover off-road driving experience. The Bike Barn is nearby. You can rent bikes there to ride around the grounds. And nearby is the estate's farm. There's a lot of historical farm equipment that you can check out with signage explaining the equipment's purpose. There's even an old wagon that guests are encouraged to climb up on for a cool picture. The farm's old grain chute is still in existence, along with an explanation of how it worked. There are even some 1800s yard games you are encouraged to try out in the farmyard, such as the Game of Graces and the Ring Toss. There were some crafter demonstrations ongoing, with one person demonstrating needlework and someone else showing how brooms were made in the 1800s. There is often someone demonstrating blacksmithing as well as weaving, though both stalls were empty on the day that we visited the village. And perhaps the best part of any farm is the animals. We saw numerous goats, including some baby goats who were being a bit of a nuisance to their mothers. We even got to pet some baby goats. We also saw some baby chicks hanging out under a heat lamp. There were some farm coloring pages for kids. There was also a playground nearby, but I didn't film it because it was swarmed with kids when we walked by. Also in the Antler Hill Village is a museum called the Biltmore Legacy, the Vanderbilts at Home and Abroad. This was cool to see because it filled in some of the blanks about the life stories of the family that built this house. We heard the love story between George Vanderbilt and his wife Edith, and about the life of their daughter Cornelia. We heard about the family's love for travel, and we heard that they were supposed to be on the Titanic's initial fateful voyage, but decided to go home a week early rather than wait to board the Titanic. George Vanderbilt's footman stayed behind and boarded the Titanic after remaining later than the family to close out their business in England. He drowned with many others in the tragedy. His name was Edwin Wheeler, and he was 26 years old. We also learned at this exhibit that the great-grandchildren of George and Edith Vanderbilt still own and run the estate to this day. They and their families, in fact, live on the Biltmore Estate in areas not open to the public.
The Antler Hill Village also has some shops to check out if you're looking for some more retail therapy during your stay. First up is Antler Hill Outfitters. It features some Biltmore souvenirs, as well as a selection of clothing, decor, and lifestyle items for sale. Next, we visited the Barn Door. This is another Christmas shop. They have a good variety of Christmas merchandise here. Much of it was different from the items available in the Christmas store up by the Biltmore house. I thought this store was cool because it was in a historic barn. I enjoyed seeing the old building, even though I was unable to learn exactly how old the barn was. The village has a creamery selling ice cream and baked goods. There's also a food truck selling barbecue and other southern dishes. There was more to Antler Hill Village, but it was nearing dinner time, so the rest of it would wait until the next morning. We then went to Village Social for dinner. It's the main table service dining option of the Village Hotel where we stayed, so that meal will be part of our hotel review video coming out soon. After a good night's sleep, we woke up with a few hours left before we were to depart, and a few things left to experience. One of which was the Biltmore Winery. Here we are traveling through the tunnel to the winery. There were displays along the way that discussed the history of wine at Biltmore and how the wine is made, which were interesting. The winery has free wine tastings included with your ticket to tour Biltmore. We're not really into wine, but we figured we would go taste some for the video, and since the experience was at no extra cost with our tickets. Then we ended up in the winery and saw the very long and slow-moving line to the free wine tasting. And that was when we decided we were not interested in waiting in line to taste wines that we probably wouldn't enjoy very much anyway. We did spend some time wandering around the winery shop, where there were plenty of opportunities to purchase bottles of wine. There were also other drinks, foods, cups, mugs, and bar accessories available for sale. Alice did end up getting a free sample of the wassail. There was no line for that. She reports it was delicious.
There was one last store we hadn't been to in Antler Hill Village called Traditions. This store featured clothing, home decor, and other items inspired by the Vanderbilt style. These were all very nice, high-end items, though it occurred to me that we don't have the same sense of style that the Vanderbilts had. At this point, we had walked through all the shops, toured the house, gardens, and winery, and seen the hotels. We ended our stay by heading to lunch 48 hours after we arrived. We found a restaurant we wanted to try in Antler Hill Village called Cedric's Tavern, named after the family's beloved St. Bernard, Cedric. We were among the first customers in the restaurant that day, giving us a chance to look at all the pictures of Cedric that hang on the walls. Here's a look at the menu. We ordered the warm house-made pretzel rolls with mustard butter for our appetizer for $7. These were delicious. Jack ordered the tavern fish and chips for lunch for $26. He really enjoyed his lunch, but don't get him started on the price. I ordered the fried shrimp skewer from the appetizer list as my entree because I was looking to eat light before our road trip home. The fried shrimp skewer was $17 and it was tasty. On our way out, we checked out some things we hadn't seen yet, like the Biltmore horses. You can book a guided horseback ride or a horse and carriage ride, all at an extra cost to your ticket. There are other activities we didn't try out too, like a falconry class where you learn to work with a trained falcon or hawk. You can also book a clay shooting lesson. Again, these activities are at an extra cost. There are also walking trails on the grounds that are free to explore and take in the beauty of Biltmore. We also checked out a couple of Biltmore's special event venues that can be booked for weddings or other celebrations. These venues are named Deer Park and Lioncrest. We really enjoyed staying at the Biltmore Estate for a bit over 48 hours. There's a lot to see and do here. Subscribe to the channel and click the notification bell so you'll be alerted when our review of Biltmore's Village Hotel and the restaurants and amenities there comes out in a few days. And click the links at the end of this video to see more of our North Carolina adventures.